Today is Tuesday, Chof Vov Tammuz Tovshin Ein Gimel. We are in Sefer Mamar Atem Nitzavim Tovshin Yud Aleph Tovshin Yud Beis. In the Mamar of Shabbos Parshas Nitzavim Chof Ches Elul Tovshin Yud Aleph. Mamar Atem Nitzavim, and we are on page Kuf Lamed Daled. We're up to Eis Gimel, chapter 3.
Why 2 seconds? Because you're ahead of yourself.
Good morning. We are in the middle of learning about Oires and Kalim, the divine lights and the divine vessels which make up the divine attributes, the spheres. And the Rebbe is explaining that Oires and Kalim, the divine lights and the divine vessels, are opposites. The Oir, the divine light, is revelation, and the Kli, the receptacle, the vessel, is concealment. Basically, just a few background notes. Kabbalah explains that the operating system for existence is something known as Seder Hishtalshelus, the order of descent, meaning to say the order by which the divine energy comes down from Hashem to the worlds. And this operating system has a number of components. One of them is what is known in Kabbalah as the Esses Fides, the 10 divine attributes. These are 10 emanations from Hashem that make up the method by which Hashem communicates and transmits His energy to all of existence. And these divine attributes are made up of 2 components. One is the Oir, the light, which means the giving energy, the flow of godliness. And the other is the Kli, the vessel, the receptacle, that which contains the godliness, the divine energy, and allows it to be transmitted further. These 2 forces, the giving energy and the withholding energy, are opposites. One is giving and one is withholding. Nevertheless, they fuse together, they combine together as one for the purpose of functioning and transmitting the godly energy to the worlds and existence as we know it. So the question we're addressing here in this Maimer is, how indeed do these 2 opposing forces coexist? How do they fuse together? How does it work? So the Rebbe explained that there is a unique quality within. Now the Rebbe, before we go further, in order to explain, to highlight their differences, the Rebbe enumerates a number of components, a number of factors, a number of characteristics within each one of them which oppose one another. Number 1, the giving energy, the light, the Oir, its characteristic is revelation, as opposed to the Kli, the vessel, the receptacle, whose nature is to withhold. So that's one aspect in which they oppose one another. Number 2, the relationship between the giving energy, the Oir, and its source, where it comes from, is what the Rebbe terms as dveikus nikeres. It cleaves obviously to its source. In other words, there's never a point where the giving energy is sort of separated, or there's never a gap between it and its source. So therefore, its cleaving, its connection to its source is an obvious one, as a result of which it's drawn to its source. Whereas the Kalim, the vessel, the withholding energy, the limiting energy, the way it comes into being is through what is known in Kabbalah as the phenomenon of tzimtzum, God, so to speak, contracting His divine energy and leaving a chalul l'makom pano, an empty void. The void of what? Of Ein Sof, of revelation. That is actually the revelation of what? Of God's withholding energy. But that basically means that there's a gap. So therefore the connection, the relationship between the withholding energy, the withholding force, and its source is what the Rebbe terms as b'bchinas dveikus she'eino nikeres. It's non-obvious cleaving. So there are a number of components and factors and characteristics in which the Oir and the Kli oppose one another. So the question is, how do they fuse together? And the Rebbe explained that being that the Oir is a revealing force, it's an illuminating force. So the idea is wherever it arrives, it illuminates and it reveals. Not only is it a revealing force in and of itself, but it also causes that in every realm and in every place, as it were, where it arrives. Therefore, the Kli, the vessel that receives the Oir, the light, contains a unique quality which the Oir on its own, the light on its own, does not contain. And the Oir, the giving energy, detects that unique quality possessed within the Kli, within the vessel, in the receptacle, and it's therefore drawn to the Kli, to the receptacle, in order to gain benefit from that unique quality, which it doesn't possess on its own. And in turn, it also reveals that unique quality within the vessel that the vessel on its own does not detect. Because of the fact that it's a concealing and withholding force. What is that unique quality? The unique quality that the Kli, the vessel, the receptacle, possesses is that it has a stronger relationship, it's more strongly bound up with the very essence of Hashem. The power to withhold is greater than the power to reveal. Oir, the divine light, Oir Ein Sof, its nature is to give endlessly. Endlessly and therefore overwhelmingly. The power to withhold that energy and channel it in a way that the receiver is able to receive it and it becomes meaningful, that's a greater force than just giving without end. And the Oir feels that, and therefore the light feels that, and therefore it's drawn to the Kli, and therefore it is able to fuse with the Kli, with the receptacle, with the vessel. The Kli, on the other hand, from the Kli's perspective, from the receiver's perspective, from the receptacle's perspective, it is in a state of bittul, nullification, to the Oir, to the divine energy, the giving energy. Why? Because of the fact that it detects the Oir's, the benefit that it has from the Oir, from the light. In that the Oir, the light, the giving energy, reveals within it its special, unique quality, and therefore you're
saying a subconscious awareness, because earlier on you just said it's unaware.
Initially.
Yeah.
Or let's put it this way. Yes, subconscious, or let's use chitzonius and pnimius, so to speak, as language, right? Because that's the point, exactly this point is what the Rebbe addresses in Gimel, the point that you're just highlighting. Where does this start? So because the Kli feels, the receptacle feels, that it needs the Oir in order to trigger this unique quality that it possesses, therefore it's in a state of bittul, nullification to the Oir, and it readily receives the Oir, and that's how they work. Now that Rebbe delves into this a little deeper, where does this all come from? If you remember yesterday, before we started the Shiur, I mentioned the idea of Havaya and Elakim. There is a pasuk, a verse in Psalms, that says, Kishemesh U'Mogen Havaya Elakim, that God's two names, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and Elakim, are like the sun and the sun's shield. So in other words, if we look at the sun and its shield, we will be able to understand what is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei and Elakim. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei Havaya is compared to what? Shemesh. And Elakim is compared to what? Mogen, the shield. Where is this rooted? Where is the fusion, or the bonding of the Oir and the Kli, the light, the giving energy and the withholding energy, where is it rooted? Where does it come from? That's where we start in Gimel. Page Kuf Lamed Aleph at the bottom. Kuf Lamed Dalet, chapter 3, Ois Gimel. V'hinei sheirish inyan ischabres eres v'kelim, the root of this matter, of the bonding of the lights and the vessels, the giving energy and the withholding energy, hom mitzad shorsham b'shemes havaya v'elikim. This is as a result of their root in the names of Hashem, of Havaya and Elikim. Havaya we know is what? The giving, the chesed. Elikim is the gvura, the withholding. Right? So, the Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hu Sheirish HaOris, that's the root of the lights, the giving energy. Ve'elikim Hu Sheirish HaKelim. And Elikim, God's name Elikim, is the root of the Kelim, the withholding energy, the vessels. Now we know that Havaya and Elikim, there's what's called Yichud Havaya Elikim. That Havaya and Elikim are united as one, which the Rebbe is going to explain in a moment. Right? And because Havaya and Elikim are united as one, therefore, what comes from Havaya and Elikim, namely the Eiris and the Kelim, are also inherently united as one. And are able to operate and coexist together as one, notwithstanding the fact that this is a giving energy and this is a withholding energy. How does that work? And therefore, since the Eiris and the Kelim, the lights and the vessels, the giving energy and the withholding energy, they stem from and they are rooted in Havaya and Elikim, and Havaya and Elikim are united as one. Because of the fact that there is this idea of the unity of Havaya and Elikim as one, from that is Nimshech in Ischabras Eres V'Kelim. From that it comes down and is manifest the idea of the bonding of the lights and the vessels. And the Rebbe spells it out. The Hinei, Ksiv, it is written in Psalms, Kishemesh umogein Havaya Elikim, that like the sun and its shield is Havaya and Elikim. Yud Kei Vav Kei and Elikim. Now, how does this work? What's the relationship? What is the function of the shield of the sun? What effect does the shield of the sun have on the sun? Just like the effect of the shield on the sun is in two matters. Ha'alef, first of all, shehu ma'ilem alei rashemesh. The shield conceals the light of the sun. Meaning to say, it reduces its potency. V'habei is the second function of the shield is through the fact that it conceals the essence of the sun's light. Through that, he reveals the light of the sun down here. Meaning to say that without the regulation, without the shield of the sun regulating the power of the sun, we would burn up. We would not be able to receive it. So through the fact that it conceals or reduces, shrinks down the potency, the power of the sun, it allows it also to what? To be revealed. So it's not just concealment for the purpose of concealment, but the whole embedded within the concealment is what? Revelation. Right? So too it is concerning the names of Hashem, of Havaya and Elikim, the giving energy and the withholding energy. What is it? Sheshem Elikim mastir alayir the Shem Havaya. The name Elikim is the idea of concealing the light, the giving energy, the force, the giving force of Shem Havaya. Yud Kei Vav Kei. And through this concealment, it affects, it brings about that what? That they should be able, it makes it possible for there to be the revelation of Havaya's the giving energy's into the vessels. Without this concealment, it would not be possible for the kelim, the vessels, to receive the divine light. For example, as we know what happened in the world of chaos, in Elam Atoyu, the divine energies were too powerful for the kelim, the receptacles, to receive them. And therefore there was the phenomenon, as we know, of Shviras HaKelim, the breaking up, metaphorically, the breaking up of these vessels. Now,
can you remind me what the sheath of the sun is?
He's saying, what he's asking you in terms of the moshel, in the parable, where do we see a sheath of the sun in terms of the parable? Is it the atmosphere which limits?
It could be the ozone layer, yeah.
Yeah.
I've often thought about it, but it may well be the ozone layer. In fact, now there's all this talk about there being a hole in the ozone layer. Chazal say in the Talmud that in the time to come, God is going to take the sun out of its shield. And the wicked will be judged with it, and the righteous will have benefit from it. So it's just this interesting phenomenon. I don't know if it's exactly what the Talmud predicted, but I think it may well be the ozone layer. The bottom line is the sun is regulated. If we know that if it becomes too hot, a few degrees more, a few degrees less, and forget it, existence says literally a few degrees, we would not be able to exist. If it would be too cold, we would be flooded. All the ice would melt and the world would be flooded. Too hot and we would be living like in the Sahara. So, now that we know that Oiris and Kalim, notwithstanding the fact, the lights in the vessels, notwithstanding the fact that they are opposing forces, one is giving and one is withholding, they work together to make up the building blocks of Seder Shtalshlus, the order of descent, right? And that's rooted in Havaya and Elikim, in their source. How does it work? One is a giving force and one is a withholding force. Do they fight with each other? In other words, is there this process of sometimes the giving force overpowering the withholding force, and sometimes the withholding force overpowering the giving force? No, they obviously operate in harmony. How does that work? This is what the Rebbe addresses now. V'hinei. Inyan zeh eine b'derech is gablus. This phenomenon of the fusing, the bonding of the giving force and the withholding force, as just explained, eine b'derech is gablus. It's not in a mode of overpowering. Shemizgabrim zel zeh, that these two forces overpower one another. The imkain, if that would be the case, it would have, then what should have happened is that sometimes there should be the overpowering of Shem Havaya, the giving force, in which case there would be total revelation without limit. In the metaphor, the sun breaking through the shield and with its full energy and force, without limit. And conversely, sometimes there should be the opposite. That the withholding energy, the Shem Elikim should overpower. What would be the net phenomenon, the result of that? Then it would be completely concealed. There would be no revelation at all. And what happens? That's not what happens. In fact, it all works beautifully in harmony. And being that the fact is that Shem Elikim, the withholding force, conceals Shem Havaya, conceals the giving force. And nonetheless, the giving force is revealed through the withholding force constantly. We are therefore compelled to say that the way they function together is not that one overpowers one another, but rather in a way that they coexist and coincide one with another. Because of the fact that they operate in harmony, they both function as one. As a result of which there could be the actual bonding between the lights and the vessels. So now that we sort of came to the conclusion that they operate in harmony, now the question is, how does that happen? If they are innately two opposing forces, how is it that these two opposing forces operate so beautifully in harmony? What's the explanation? Before we go into inside, I'll just say it briefly outside. The idea basically is, the Rebbe says like this. Havaya Elikim, the giving force and the opposing force, the withholding force, when we go to the Shadish, to the root, we're talking about Tzimtzum and Kav, the contraction, right? And the revelation of godliness resulting after that. The thin line of godliness that God drew in through the tzimtzum, through the contraction, in order to create, say, the Shtalshalus, this operating system we're talking about, the order of descent, with the 10 spheres, the 10 divine attributes, made up of the lights and the vessels. Tzimtzum, and the first contraction, we know that there are contractions as we go down the order of descent, there are further contractions. The difference being that the first contraction is siluk, complete removal, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, right? The others are miut, just reducing. The first one is siluk, complete removal. Then Hashem draws down a thin line of divine emanation, divine light, which is the source of the entire Seder Shtalshalos. What was the purpose of the tzimtzum? What was the purpose of this contraction of removing Ein Sof? For the purpose of revelation, so that there should be able to be a world. That was the beginning of giving room, as it were, for existence to come into being. So embedded within the tzimtzum, notwithstanding the fact that it's the removal of the Ein Sof, God's divine energy, unlimited energy, infinite light, embedded within it is, what's the kavanah, what's the purpose? Embedded within it, meaning to say, what is the purpose of it? What's embedded within it? Revelation. Even though that it's actually what? Withdrawal and concealment. So too, when Hashem drew down this divine energy, la'achar tzimtzum, through the tzimtzum, he's drawing it down into a reality where there is removal of energy, meaning to say that the Ein Sof, this giving force, understands that it needs to allow itself to be regulated for the purpose of Gili. Why is Hashem revealing this divine energy? So that there should be revelation to the very lowest realms. In order for that to take place, it needs to be regulated. It needs to be limited. So already in the revelation, notwithstanding the fact that it's a giving force, because its purpose is revelation to the extent that revelation means that the very lowest should be able to receive it, therefore it allows itself to be regulated and to be limited. That's the explanation why they coexist together. That's the idea of yichud, or hiskalus of Havaya Elikim. That Havaya and Elikim are one. They're included one from another. Because within Havaya, the giving force already feels that its purpose is revelation. Revelation meaning contained revelation. That the one to whom he's revealed can actually receive it and have benefit from it. And for that it needs to be regulated. So therefore embedded within it, from when it's revealed, it already feels its purpose, and therefore embedded within it is an allowance to be regulated. And so to tzimtzum, because it feels that its purpose is in order to regulate the gilui, therefore embedded within it is the idea of revelation, allowing Elikim, Havaya, to function through it. So therefore Havaya Elikim kul echad. Havaya and Elikim are one. V'hazbara says the Rebbe. Now inside with the Rebbe's words. Ki Shem Havaya, what's the explanation? Shem Havaya shinyani hu inyan agilui. The name Havaya. The idea of which is what? Revelation. What's the purpose of revelation? What's the tachlis of this revelation? The purpose of this revelation is not just that he should say, hello, I'm here, and blow everything else apart. But the idea is revelation that can reach everywhere, that God's infinite light should reach everywhere to the very lowest realms. Meaning to say that those to whom he's revealed should be able to receive him and appreciate him and have benefit from him. And this cannot take place unless Shem Havaya, unless the giving force clothes itself in the name Elikim, in the regulating and limiting force. So it needs to come out to what? To this mode of kelim, of vessels of limiting. So what's the result? The result is, what's the conclusion? That revelation can only be complete, can only happen if there is concealment. If it would just be revelation, he would overwhelm everybody. But that's not the idea. The idea is that those that receive should be able to have benefit from it. Ukmeik, Shem Elikim, and on the other hand also, the name Elikim, which is what? The withholding force. Its purpose is not merely and only to conceal, not to allow Shem Havaya, not to allow revelation. What's the purpose of this withholding force? That through this concealment, the purpose of his concealment is not just for concealment's sake, but rather the purpose of this concealment is in order to allow the revelation of Shem Havaya, of the giving energy, to arrive to the very lowest levels. V'nimtza. What's the result? Therefore, what comes out of this is that the idea of this concealment is to complete and to complement the revelation, the phenomenon of revelation. So each one feels its purpose. So the concealment feels that its purpose is to regulate the giving force. The revelation feels that its purpose is to arrive to the very lowest levels to which, because of which it needs to allow itself to be regulated. What's the conclusion from all of this? That really and truly, the names Havaya and Elikim, meaning the giving force and the withholding force, are included one from another. To the extent that we arrive at the fact that Havaya and Elikim are actually one mamish. What does it mean? They're one. They have to operate as one in order to fulfill the purpose for which they exist. Therefore, this is the reason why, notwithstanding the fact that Oir is a giving energy and Kli is a withholding energy, and as the Rebbe highlighted previously, there are differences between the two. There are factors in which they are opposites, and notwithstanding the fact that they are opposites, they operate together. Not only do they operate together, they are mischaber, they bond with one another, and they operate in harmony, not by one overpowering the other, but rather they operate in harmony. Claude?
Yeah, very good.
Another few lines. So too, if we go to the root of all of this, as we mentioned before, what is Havaya and Elikim at its original root? It's the Kav and the Tzimtzum, right? So too it is when we go back to the source of all of this, the first contraction, which is Elikim in its source, Vigili Hakav, La'achar Tzimtzum, and the revelation of God's this thin line of divine infinite light, which is drawn after into the Tzimtzum, which is the root of Havaya. The Hinei Kavonas HaTzimtzum B'Shvil HaGili. What was the purpose of this contraction of godliness? This is a quote from Kisvei Arizal, right? When Hashem wanted to create the world, God's infinite light filled the entire void, and then in order for Hashem to allow for existence to come into being, he sort of pushed his divine infinite light to the sides, and he left a cholol b'kampani, a void, and then he drew down from his divine energy, from before the Tzimtzum, a thin line of Oir, Ein Sof, a thin line of godliness, through the Tzimtzum. So what's the purpose of this Tzimtzum, of this contraction? So that there can be revelation. V'hainu, she'afilu ha'tzimtzum shehu shoyne mishar ha'tzimtzum. Meaning to say that even this Tzimtzum, this contraction, the first contraction, which is innately different from all other Tzimtzumim, from all other contractions that follow. What's the difference? Shekulam heim b'derech miyut, all the contractions that follow between all the various realms and all the various levels, they are in a way of reduction. They reduce the energy that precedes them. Whereas the first contraction is in a way of complete removal of Ein Sof, as the expression of the Arizal, they remained metaphorically an empty void. What does that mean? That it was complete removal. Also the first contraction, what's the purpose of this contraction? It's for the purpose of revelation. So too it's the other way around. So too it's concerning the revelation, which is the light of this line of energy of godliness that Hashem drew into the Tzimtzum. What's the difference between the Eir HaKav, this line of godliness that God draws in through the Tzimtzum? What's the difference between that and the Ein Sof Shalifnei HaTzimtzum, and the divine energy that was there before the contraction? The divine energy that was there before the contraction existed in a reality where there was no void, where there was no empty space. Meaning to say, it didn't feel that it was a revelation, but it would be like a revelation which doesn't allow itself to be regulated, because that's all there is. It's overwhelming. The Eir HaKav, this line of godliness that Hashem draws into the Tzimtzum, it already feels that there is something that needs to receive it. So it feels already within it from its inception, tzimtzum, the contraction. Because before the contraction, this divine energy was without limit, without end. And after the contraction, this revelation of godliness is in a mode of a thin line of divine energy. This is a phenomenon that takes place, that comes about within the earth through the contraction. Continue, Mitzvah Shem. Just one more line. Notwithstanding the fact that it's limited, it is revelation. Okay, we'll continue Mitzvah Shem tomorrow.